I want to start with a feeling that I bet you've experienced. It's that deep, just bone-weary exhaustion that hits you. And not because your professional workload is crushing or anything like that. It's because your social calendar has just been relentless. You could have a totally manageable project list at work, but the simple act of existing near other people.
Even people you genuinely adore.
Exactly. Just leaves you completely hollowed out.
And that distinction is so critical. It's what we're calling introvert burnout. It isn't the classic work burnout that we hear about, which, comes from chronic workplace stress. This is different. This exhaustion is triggered specifically by sustained social input, lots of stimulation, and a total lack of quality alone time. It's that unique state where your nervous system just goes into overload because it has processed way too much for way too long.
I hit this wall so hard recently. I think it's a month of just back-to-back team meetings, networking things, family commitments, and I knew I needed rest, so I cleared an entire weekend. But come Monday, I didn't feel better. I actually felt worse. I was fuzzy, kind of irritable. And every single time my phone pinged with a friendly text, I felt this spike of genuine anxiety.
That anxiety, that's a huge sign. It's a sign your system is failing to regulate itself. We talk about the nervous system being in the red. It means you've moved past just being tired into something more sustained. And at that point, alone time, which is usually your go-to for repairs,
It stops working.
it stops working, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like trying to charge a completely dead battery with a broken charger. Your energy is so low that even something minor like a notification can feel like this huge threat to whatever you have left.
Okay, so how do we track this? Because that feeling, that dread when the phone rings, that's data, right? We need to be able to identify the signals before we hit a total system shutdown. We've actually organized this whole journey into 3 escalating stages.
Right. And knowing the signs of stage 1 is basically your superpower because the intervention there is the smallest. We call this first stage running on empty.
And I think the biggest symptom here, for me at least, is the way your perspective shifts. Social invitations, they stop feeling like fun opportunities and they start feeling more like obligations,
Yeah.
assignments.
Yeah.
For me, the major flag was that sheer, intense relief I would feel when a plan got canceled. I wasn't disappointed at all. I was mentally cheering.
That feeling, celebrating a cancellation, that is hard data. It's your body giving you immediate feedback that the energy it would cost you is way more than any benefit you'd get. In this stage, you're already needing way more alone time than usual. And even really pleasant, low-key stuff, a casual chat, a quick lunch, it leaves you feeling disproportionately drained. You are running purely on fumes at this point, just overwriting your body's clear signals.
So if I recognize that relief, that feeling, what's the immediate intervention? Because a normal night's sleep, like 8 hours, just doesn't seem to cut it here.
It doesn't, because the sleep you get at this level of depletion is often fragmented. It's not restorative. The necessary pivot here is what we call the 48-hour reset protocol. The whole goal is just to aggressively interrupt that depletion cycle. You need a dedicated 48-hour block. A weekend is perfect, where you clear the calendar completely, and I mean completely, and you set up a total communication buffer.
And the key, which I think a lot of people miss, is that this rest has to be non-productive. There's no pressure to suddenly clean out the garage or finally learn that language.
Precisely. We are aiming for gentle, passive restoration. Think sleep, quiet movement like a slow walk in nature, or reading without any pressure to remember it. The second you introduce a productive goal, you re-engage that part of your brain that requires output. And right now, we need pure input recovery. No guilt. This isn't avoidance. It's triage.
Okay, but what happens when that simple relief turns into something more physical? When we ignore stage 1, the symptoms get a lot harder to dismiss. That pushes us into stage 2. Warning lights flashing.
When you ignore that early data, your body has to escalate the signals. It has to get louder. And this is where the physical stuff starts to show up, because that chronic stress starts to impact how your body is actually working. You'll start to notice things like physical tension, chronic fatigue that feels like your limbs are heavy, persistent headaches.
And that cognitive side is it's devastating, that mental fog. You know you need to focus, but you just find yourself lost for hours, endlessly scrolling or watching videos you won't even remember, simply because even your favorite solo hobbies feel too complex, too tiring.
And that inability to find pleasure or restoration in your own solitude, that's the ultimate red flag for stage 2. Your main recovery mechanism is now compromised. You're now needing days, not just a few hours, to recover from any interaction. And the irritability factor just spikes because your emotional regulation centers are fried.
That sounds like a really vicious cycle. You're too tired to recover, and the only way you know how to recover now feels too tiring. So what kind of intervention can break that loop? A 48-hour reset is clearly not going to be enough.
At this point, no. We need deep, sustained restoration. That requires an extended social sabbatical, and we're talking typically 2 to 4 weeks. 2 days stabilizes you, 2 to 4 weeks gives your nervous system time to actually re-regulate and rebuild capacity. You have to set really firm, clear boundaries for this window.
But the idea of telling friends or family or even work colleagues that you're just taking a month off from socializing, that brings up so much guilt. The fear of disappointing people. How do you even manage that?
We have to remember that the guilt is actually part of the burnout cycle. It's that internalized belief that your needs are somehow less important than what everyone else wants from you. The key is using clear but soft boundary scripts. So instead of just vaguely pulling away, you could try something like, I'm extremely depleted right now, and I'm prioritizing a complete rest. This has nothing to do with you, but I really need to pull back until this date.
That makes sense. It's honest.
It is. It builds trust by being honest about your own state without making it a rejection of them. And then you need protective systems, autoresponders, declining non-essential events, and just allowing yourself that space.
Okay, so if stage 2 is where solitude stops being fun, then we have to talk about stage 3, system shutdown. What happens when you've ignored all the flashing lights and even an extended break isn't working?
Stage 3 is the crisis point. At this point, days alone, they no longer provide any soothing effect at all. In fact, that solitude can feel really empty or stale, or even a little frightening. The withdrawal is complete, but it's not peaceful. It's just marked by this deep apathy and numbness.
That sounds terrifying when the things that used to ground you, music, reading, whatever it is, they just fall away.
It is, and it signals that the issue is no longer just about energy depletion. Your nervous system and your emotional centers. They now require external help to stabilize. You start experiencing persistent apathy, a deep sadness, a true sense of hopelessness. And this is the critical recognition point. When your internal recovery tools stop working, the solution is beyond a DIY fix. It starts to overlap significantly with clinical anxiety or depression.
So if someone recognizes themselves in stage 3, what is the absolute most important action step? Knowing that just resting or setting boundaries isn't going to fix it.
The absolute priority is seeking professional support. This really requires the intervention of a therapist or a counselor who can help regulate your nervous system and address what's going on underneath. And while you're working towards finding that person, you should only gently reintroduce the simplest routines, like a 5-minute walk outside, maybe. But the main focus has to be on getting that external support.
And we should always stress, if you are struggling with persistent hopelessness or thoughts of self-harm, using a crisis hotline like 988 is the most crucial step you can take. Acknowledging that need for external help is the opposite of failure. It's profound self-preservation.
And what's fascinating is that the foundation for avoiding all 3 of these stages is a constant practice we call energy accounting. You have to realize that your nervous system is just wired for deep processing. You take in more information than the average person, and that depth, well, it requires a bigger energy budget. Prevention isn't about running away from people, it's about forecasting your limits.
It really sounds like treating your social energy like a bank account. You wouldn't overdraft your actual bank account every single day, but we treat our social battery like it's just infinite.
Precisely. You need to ask yourself every morning, how much social capacity do I have today on a scale of 1 to 10? If you start at a 5, you absolutely cannot commit to 3 high-energy events. Respecting that number is the highest form of self-preservation. And when you set those boundaries proactively, the social connections you do choose to engage in, they feel spacious and genuinely good rather than immediately draining.
This has been incredibly validating. I know so many listeners are probably recognizing themselves in these stages. You are not antisocial. You are not broken. You're just managing a nervous system that processes the world with tremendous depth, and that takes a tremendous amount of energy.
We actually put together a clear, free resource to help you navigate this. If you are recognizing yourself in any of these descriptions, from that stage 1 relief to the stage 3 shutdown, we created the Burnout Recovery Checklist just for you.
Yeah, this is a really practical PDF, and it's designed for you to use immediately. It's got a self-assessment tool to pinpoint exactly which stage you might be in, detailed guides for the 48-hour reset, and the sabbatical planning. And crucially, those boundary scripts for asking for space without all the guilt. It also gives you those clear indicators for when stage 3 really does require professional support.
And just remember this, healing isn't a straight line. It's a rhythm. It's a rhythm of withdrawal and then re-engagement. You're learning to create a way of being that finally fits you.
You can find that checklist, along with links to related content on Energy Accounting 101, right in the show description. Continue your deep dive, and please move gently with yourself.